Mr. Speaker, the way to bring energy bills down for good is to deliver cheap, clean, homegrown energy.
Pensioners are poorer and colder because of his decisions. All the while, energy has got more expensive for everyone. Why has the Prime Minister broken his promise?
We've extended the Warm Homes discount to 6 million households, 1 in 5 families. That's £150 off the bills next winter.
The highest energy bills in Europe despite having the second most renewables. That's the contradiction Keir Starmer doesn't want you to notice as he's caught in a web of net zero inconsistencies today in Parliament. Watch as the Prime Minister exposes Starmer's hypocrisy on winter fuel payments and clean energy policies. Even Tony Blair called the current approach to net zero irrational and doomed to fail, and you're about to see exactly why. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Britain faces a puzzling contradiction.
Energy bills on fossil fuel have fluctuated massively in the last 3 years because we're exposed to the international market.
Mr. Speaker, this approach to net zero is irrational. It's doomed to fail. Those aren't my words, they're Tony Blair's.
The only way to get bills down is to go to renewable energy. It's something she used to believe in.
Keir Starmer seems determined to ignore. How can our country have the second highest amount of renewables in Europe while simultaneously suffering the highest energy bills? This question reveals the fundamental flaw in Starmer's energy policy arguments. During Prime Minister's questions, Starmer attacked the government's energy strategy, painting a picture of a failed approach to renewables and consumer costs. Yet the Prime Minister quickly exposed the Labour leader's hypocrisy by quoting his own shadow chancellor, who previously insisted that net zero the shift must happen now as a matter of urgency. This urgent call for immediate action stands in stark contrast to Labour's current position.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister talks about clean energy. We have the second highest amount of renewables on the grid in Europe, and yet we still have the highest energy bills. This is not about clean energy.
But what won't bring energy bills down is the leader of the opposition's policy, leaving us hooked on fossil fuels at the mercy of dictators like Putin.
The Prime Minister has broken another promise. He won't admit it, but isn't the truth that he can't cut energy bills because of his net zero policy?
Which seemingly backs away from this urgency when faced with the economic realities. What's particularly revealing is how Starmer's criticisms conveniently ignore his party's previous positions on energy independence and national security. The Prime Minister highlighted this inconsistency, noting that the opposition's policies would leave Britain hooked on fossil fuels at the mercy of dictators like Putin. This isn't just political point scoring, it's a serious concern about the security implications of Labour's shifting energy stance. The economic benefits of clean energy investment formed a central part of the Prime Minister's counter-argument. While Starmer focuses on short-term costs, the government emphasises the long-term advantages for the economy, businesses, job creation and growth. This forward-thinking approach contrasts with Labour's seemingly reactionary position. Starmer pointed to specific examples of economic hardship, including a ceramics factory closure in Stoke and 250 job losses in the North Sea. The Prime Minister acknowledged these challenges, stating, "Jobs are disappearing last week. A ceramics factory in Stoke closed because of energy costs this morning. 250 more job losses have been announced in the North Sea." However, the question remains whether these closures stem directly from net zero policies or from broader economic factors and global market forces. Perhaps most damaging to Starmer's position is Tony Blair's assessment that the current approach to net zero is irrational and doomed to fail. When a former Labour Prime Minister delivers such a scathing critique of policies aligned with current Labour thinking, it raises serious questions about Starmer's credibility on energy issues. The evidence increasingly suggests that Starmer's net zero statements directly contradict his party's previous positions and would likely increase energy costs further rather than reduce them. This contradiction becomes especially troubling when we consider how energy policy directly impacts the most vulnerable in society, precisely the people Starmer claims to champion in his criticism of winter fuel payments. Starmer's attacks on winter fuel payment cuts raise serious questions about his honesty. During PMQs, he painted the government as callous toward vulnerable households struggling with energy costs. but his manufactured outrage omits crucial facts that expose his deception. The Prime Minister quickly countered Starmer's selective narrative by announcing the extension of the Warm Homes discount to 6 million households, providing a £150 reduction on energy bills this winter. This substantial support programme received no acknowledgement from Starmer, who seemed determined to maintain his narrative, regardless of the facts. This selective amnesia extends to Starmer's failure to recognise the government's commitment to reducing energy bills through clean, homegrown energy. The Prime Minister emphasised how current investments in renewable energy infrastructure will create long-term affordability and security, precisely what British households need. Starmer's criticism conveniently ignores how these initiatives directly address the cost of living concerns he claims to champion. Even more revealing was the Prime Minister's accusation that Labour actively blocks the very energy infrastructure projects that would lower costs. This obstructionism suggests Starmer's concern for struggling households might be more political theatre than genuine commitment. How can he claim to fight for affordable energy while his party impedes the development of domestic energy resources? The Prime Minister delivered perhaps his most damning critique when he stated Labour's approach would keep the UK reliant on fossil fuels and at the mercy of international markets. This dependence on foreign energy sources, particularly from hostile regimes, represents a genuine national security concern that Starmer glosses over in his criticisms. A pattern emerges when examining Starmer's messaging on energy security and affordability over time. His positions shift with political winds rather than adhering to consistent principles. When challenging the government suits his purposes, he demands immediate action on affordability. Yet his party's long-standing policies would likely increase costs and decrease security, a contradiction the Prime Minister effectively highlighted. This inconsistency forces us to question whether Starmer's apparent concern for those affected by winter fuel payment changes is genuine. His selective outrage ignores his party's historical positions on energy, while failing to offer realistic alternatives. By the end of the exchange, the Prime Minister had systematically dismantled Starmer's arguments, exposing them as politically motivated rather than policy-driven. Starmer's criticisms not only ignore his own party's role in the current energy situation, but reveal a troubling pattern of contradiction that undermines his credibility as a serious leader. As viewers, we must consider what these contradictions reveal about Starmer's approach to governance. Are his energy positions based on principle or political expediency? What we're witnessing is a troubling pattern of inconsistency from Starmer. His criticisms on net zero and winter fuel payments seem designed to score political points rather than reflect coherent policy positions. Prime Minister's questions revealed several key contradictions that undermine Starmer's credibility. While his shadow chancellor previously insisted that the net zero shift must happen now as a matter of urgency, Starmer now appears to back away from this stance when politically convenient. For voters who value honesty and consistency, this raises serious questions. Are we being sold convenient narratives rather than sustainable solutions? Next time energy policy debates emerge, remember today's contradictions and ask who's truly prioritising Britain's energy security.